Fist, courtesy. Okay. Okay, so today we'll be looking at Chi Sao. Chi Sao translates, basically means sticking hands. These are a series of drills to enhance your contact reflexes to not fight force with force. Chi Sao is about teaching yourself not to fight force with force and use your contact reflexes to establish a point of contact, a bridge, and make your way through on a person's defenses. Now these drills as such aren't combat. They are just training drills. But the skill you obtain from these drills can be applied to real combat, and I'll demonstrate some of those connections as we get through the seminar. So again, if Eric just puts his right hand like so, yep. We'll talk about force that makes contact with the limb and pushes across. Okay, we'll call this A force. A force push across, it doesn't threaten you. You let it go, it doesn't threaten you. And if I do it the opposite direction, B force, it also does not threaten. You can let it go without it hurting him. C force travels downwards, again, releases it without threatening, and maybe if he's make a punch out, if I push up like so, this is D force. D force travels up into the air, again, nothing directed straight at him. Now the only force, come forward a little bit, the only force that truly threatens him is force that's traveling, just relax, force that travels straight at him, forward energy. We'll call this E force. E force. Now, generally when you put pressure towards someone, their instinct is to open up the limb, which actually opens up new targets. So, there are two ways of dealing with forward energy in Chi Sao. Okay? One is, if he pushes towards me, if I let it go, it'll hit me. But if I redirect it, I occupy the center so I can occupy the quickest path. Or he pushes towards me, I step off the line of force and occupy a side. Now, these type of training drills are really quite, have a real part to play in combat. Now, most of you have heard me talking about bridging, or seeking a bridge, connecting with an opponent. You would have seen this in a lot of sports fighting. People have their guards up and they're firing out punches here. They're firing out just not to really to hit the person, but to get points of contact, to see what the person's intention is off that point of contact. And essentially that's what you're doing with Chi Sao. You're trying to get a sense of what a person's movement, their stages of combat, how they're moving through range, and how they make contact with the limb when you put your punch out. Now, a bit like a blind person learning to read Braille, they're enhancing their sense of touch so they can make sense of dots and bumps, undulations, so they can read. And if you've ever seen someone who reads Braille quite fluidly, it's quite amazing. They're just running their hand across the page very rapidly. Okay, it's, really good Braille readers, and you feel it. It just feels like little bumps and dots. Are very hard to read what they're interpret. How all they're doing is enhancing their sense of touch. So that's all we're doing. Okay, all right. So we're going to start with. There are several drills, Wing Chun, Chi Sao drills that are within the system. We're going to do 4 or 5 different drills. Okay, the first drill I'm pretty sure most of you have done. It's the Dan Chi Sao drill, single arm drill. Composes of 2 starting movements, the Tan Sao, which most people know, and the Fuk Sao. Tan Sao translates to dispersing hand. Fuk Sao means to subdue. All right, or to capture. Okay. Now, when you do this drill, when we do the form, we'll have a movement like this, which also represent a Tan Sao position. But the one you do from the center and drive forward is not the one we're using in Chi Sao. We're using the one that come off on a slight angle across the center. So it means this point here at the wrist is the point of contact. All right, we can't be like this with the Chi Sao drill because you need an equilibrium when you start a drill. Not one person has the center over the other person. You both are coming to the center, and the point of contact should be the center line. Luke, would you like to come over and help me? Okay. So Tan Sao position is a dispersing hand. So we'll just have a look at how dispersing hand works. If he does a round punch, Tan Sao makes contact and disperses force. You can do a Tan Sao anywhere down the arm because the elbow sits inside the frame of the body. It makes for a very strong, structurally sound block, because when you're in a front stance, your neutral stance, and then you face it. The neutral stance facing this point means you have a supporting leg. It's on the center. The block is on the center line, so here's a neutral stance. The guard is, you face the point of contact, you punch on the central line. So again, he does this punch here, you're punching here. Okay, if he follows the next punch, again I'm turning now here and punching here now. This is in the center, this is a central line. Okay. Tan Sao are very good at diffusing force. Most of you have seen me. Just come forward. Just put your right hand like so. Right hand. Okay. When a person punches with the elbow out, the power comes from the shoulder and the hip, and obviously from the leverage through the torque of the body. Now, the problem with this type of punch is the shoulder is responsible for a lot of the force gathering and the twist of the body. And the elbow, because the elbow sits outside the frame of the body, there's nothing to support this point. I can demonstrate that by, if he just holds his hand here and I slap it, the elbow goes back, because there's nothing to support this point. In fact, the more he stiffens up, the more it will affect his body. Okay, so if we bring it down inside the framework of the body, now if I hit my hand into it, the leg should support this point. Another way you can demonstrate this action is if I face this point and he pushes against my body now. See him leaning forward? He starts leaning and he's using a little bit from, obviously the kinetic energy has to come from the leverage on the ground. He starts twisting from the hip and pushing from the shoulder, and then he gets me over. But if he brings it into the center and now pushes, much easier for him to push me, because the arm is now supported directly from the leg, because the elbow sits inside the framework of the body. But as soon as that arm comes out, it's really reliant on shoulder strength. So the Tan Sao position, very strong position. Okay, so you have the Tan Sao, but then you also have a Fuk Sao, which is essentially the same position. This part of the arm does not change. Just the front of the top of the hand. I don't know, you have one of those bar mixers where you just change the set, you change the arm, and it has a different thing. You can cut things up differently. So essentially that's the same thing. The elbow is inside the framework of the body. However, this time, if he puts his guard up, you use a Fuk Sao from outside a person's leading arm. Okay, so I veer off to the blind side. I establish a position with my elbow in to control this. Now you don't have to hook perfectly over, you can just sort of sit your hand here. But what you're essentially doing is you're subduing this limb. He cannot use it against me. Now if he pushes towards me, I have a response that you can move away from the free hand. If he tries to take it out and around, you can use two arms at the same time, because he has to go back and around. Again, if I don't move at all, just take it out and around, you can hit straight out from here. But a better option would be to use two arms at the same time. If he tries to punch straight off of this line, you can control the other side and you create a new blind side. So Fuk Sao subdues your opponent's ability to work from that position. Now, the reason I'm just demonstrating those two techniques are they are the starting positions of the first drill. You start with Tan Sao, you start with Fuk Sao. The Tan Sao that you're using is not the one that's done directly with the whole thing on the center. It's the one you do at the beginning, which is slightly on an angle. So this part of my arm right here is the center point. So when we face each other, when me and Luke face each other, we face each other in a neutral stance. Again, it's not in our best interest to fight directly in front of each other. We always want to fight from the blind side. But for the drill, you're competing for the center. Okay? Now, the Tan Sao controls the inside path or underneath. The Futsal controls the outside path or on top. Now, the point where we're making contact is right here at the wrist. So if I try to push my arm right into the center, he's now off the center. He doesn't command the center at all. So it's not equal. And he feels like, I need to push back over here. And then this guy starts pushing back here. And then you get this contradiction of what the drill should be about. You shouldn't be pushing to the sides, the A and B forces. Remember, the only force that threatens is forward force. So we want to find that point here at the center. He wants the elbow in. Okay, so this point here is the center. Now, if I punch essentially directly from this position, because his forearm controls the inside path, my punch should veer off on an angle like so. And if I hold my elbow strong and he tried to punch from here, I control the inside path by making contact here and driving forward as he drives forward. So it's an equilibrium, as I said. Then, when you begin the drill, it becomes a dynamic equilibrium. Now, someone has to serve, like in a tennis match. Someone has to begin the game. And the person in the Tansao position is doing this. So, it's like having a conversation. I ask my partner if I do a forward line of force. Now note that with this position here, I just edge my blade, just take this hand away now, and I'm going to drive forward. So it lines up directly with my shoulder. It can come up a little higher. So you think about either the jawline, so you're hitting to the jawline, or into the throat. That's the direct line to him. Often when you see this drill, because this person redirect, the force looks like it's going down to the chest area. This is a mistake. You should not aim your energy towards the chest or the body. Simply because if I aim straight down there and he punched straight towards my face, you leave an opening here. If you're coming straight, you're going down, you leave a big opening here. So if my first initial line of force is driving straight here and he tries to punch, you control the inside line. So the inside line is now, you have a command over it. Now, so I ask him, okay, this is forward force, what do you do? So he must redirect with the jutsao, the snap hand. It's just not done with the arm when you snap your arm. It just happened at the wrist. So you're just turning your fingers up, and if you watch my forearm, it's going up on a slight angle. As you snap, it ends up almost parallel to the ground, and my finger pointing at him. Okay, why? Why do you snap? Because it's downward force. Even though it's only a small action, it's still propelled down. You shouldn't do it with the arm, just here. Okay. Some systems of Wing Chun don't apply jutsao. Jutsao means snap hand. They don't apply it because they say, well, why do I need to? If I have my futsal here in the center and he tries to do his palm, I can just control the line. Yeah, sure. If you're very strong, you can control the line without doing jutsao. But you do it with, you hold your center. Don't let me hit your center, okay? You see what happened to his whole body? He wasn't moving his jutsao, so he's commanding a very strong, rigid structure. And when I did my palm strike, because it was so rigid, it affected his whole structure and made his whole body move. So the jutsao dispersed this initial barrage of energy. So when he does the palm, you just jut slightly. Now my finger's pointing at him, so now you're going to go. Jut. Okay, now you should be pointing here. Yep. Now he has an opening to serve back now, return serve. So as he does his punch, you're rotating up. Now, this is something I want you to be careful of. When you do chisao, the arm should only extend completely when there's an opportunity to go there's an opening. Now when you do chisao, we're facing each other front on. If I put both my hands up, shouldn't be able to reach Luke at all. He puts both his hands up, he shouldn't be able to reach me at all. Now if I start and I do watch what happens, if I turn, what ends up happening is one arm starts getting longer than the other. So you're not actually working on your center anymore, you're working on a central line, not a center line. When you want to use two arms at the same time, it's a center line. Must face the point of contact. So for the drill, we don't want to start twisting because we want to think about always using two arms at the same time. So he redirects with the jat. Now, this is where I want him to be careful because as he punch, okay, now see his arm extended completely? Very hard for him to defend anything that comes through the center now. Because his arm is extended, it's like he's fired his weapon, he's given away that option for me to now to exploit the drill. Remember, when a person straightens an arm out, the only way they can use that arm now is to pull it back in before they can do something else or defend, okay? So when an arm is straight, first of all, it's very hard to, you can have a lot of leverage over the limb here, yeah? Okay, so I want you to be careful if I'm from this position and you go, and now you punch. Now there's the bonds out. Now note that my arm, it's blocked, yeah? We agree that you've blocked me? So for me to keep going here, you see? Because you've overextended yourself. It's like running at a door that's locked, or pushing on a door that's locked. It's locked, the door is shut. But then you get angry and you run at the door to hip and shoulder it, but you realize it wasn't locked, it was just wedged shut, and you hit it and you go flying through and hit the wall on the other side. This is what's going to happen. Because if I get to here, at this point at the point of the drill, and he's pushing on me, or he's overextending his force, this is all energy that you can exploit. If I'm at this point here, and he's pushing on me, all I'm doing is as that pushes into me, I just bring my hand into the center. It's going off now. Now that's an option. But you might go to the outside. You might go to the outside now. Okay, so it's really important that you do not push through a person's defense. Okay, so forward line, he redirects. Forward line, up, careful, careful. So think about maintaining this point here. Down, go down right there. Now don't go forward too much, yeah. Now go up, yeah, Because if you do this with too much vigor, we'll go again. You feel that in your stance? Because you're pushing too hard on this point. Okay, so doing Chisao is about subtlety and learning to read forces. The more tense, the more rigid you become, the harder it is to read what a person's telling you and what you should be learning. When you feel rigidity and tension, you feel the nervousness of your partner as well, which often makes you nervous because they go, oh Jesus, why is this guy nervous? Now I'm nervous. Because the guy, rigid and mechanic, and he's doing things that aren't relaxed. Again, you can go there. There are always two ends of the spectrum: rigidity and stiffness and force, softness, fluidity, at the two ends of the spectrum. The idea is to find the point in the middle where you can perform at your best. Just take a couple of steps back so I can talk to you again. All right, so a neutral stance, okay? Your feet are directed straight forward, okay? Straight forward, both feet. You bend your knees slightly, you lock your pelvis, so you tuck your tailbone under. You're not leaning back, you're not doing this. Your back is straight, you tuck your tailbone, you squeeze your knees together, all right? Like you're holding a basketball between your knees. You're trying to squeeze here. It's a bit like you're trying to bring your feet together as well. So if you were trying to do this on the ground, you don't bring your feet, you just squeeze and you're pulling yourself together. All right? So you're activating the biggest muscle groups in your body. your quadriceps, your glutes. By tucking and squeezing here, this glute is activated. By squeezing here, you're tensing up the inside of the thigh and the gluteus, and working up through to keeping this locked. Unify the bottom part of your body and the top part of your body. All right, so whenever you're doing a drill with someone, make sure you get your foundation, your structure right. This is very important for the drill. Just stop for a second, take 2 steps back, both of you, all of you. Yep, okay. So, the free hand. The free hand sits to the side of the body, but not relaxed, not resting against the body or just falling asleep. Part of the reason why it's up, okay, the forearm is parallel to the ground. You shouldn't have a bend or crick in your wrist or up or down like so. The reason if it pull up away from the body is after a time it becomes noticeable because it's not comfortable. You shouldn't be up like this. You should be relaxed, but in a position where it's not comfortable to sit like this. What this is, it draws awareness to this limb. Even though it's not engaged in the rotation, it's engaged because it's uncomfortable. If you put it here and relax it, it becomes comfortable. So it's not engaged. You're not conscious of it. Okay? It's about doing Wing Chun, doing any martial art, or any type of movement type patterns, dance, yoga, whatever it may be. It's about being conscious and becoming aware of movement and your body, your own body. Okay? So the idea is, because in Wing Chun, you're learning to use 2 arms at the same time, and when you get more advanced, you start doing double arm chi saos, 2 arms. There has to be an awareness of consciousness through your limb. So when you begin, you've got to keep it conscious. You want it to be uncomfortable so you're aware. It's like when you hit your finger on with a hammer. You're aware of it, even if you're not moving it, it's pulsing away. You're quite aware that there's an injury there because you're in pain. And it might not be that level of pain, but that uncomfortableness means that you're conscious of this side. It's just not switching off and doing the zombie thing, going into that zombie mindset where it's just down here and you're not there. You're not aware of what your body's doing. All right? So, feet, what's your little toes doing? You squeeze your toe a little bit, squeeze your hips, lock your pelvis, be aware of what your body's doing. Now, 1, 2, 3. It doesn't matter what part of the drill you're in, minimize it. Bring it, make it smaller, make it more efficient. It doesn't have to be fast or dynamic. I want it a fluid action, and compromise with one another. Don't try to outdo each other or beat each other to a punch. Work with each other like you're having a conversation. You're not interrupting each other. You're talking to each other and listening to each other. All right, keep going.